Welcome to the Erosulations podcast, where we are real, raw, and get right to the point. I'm your host, Arasi, and in today's episode, we will be talking about self-love and unapologetically putting yourself first. Self-love has been a bit of a trend over these past few years or so, but to me, it's one of the best trends yet. It honestly kind of opened the door for me to kickstart my own self-love journey, and I'll be honest, in the beginning, I was one of those people who thought self-love was just another word for self-care. But as I went through my journey, I found that it is so much more. Let's get into it. First, I think we should talk about what is self-love. Well, here's the definition. I went on Google and found this, okay? Self-love is a state of appreciation for oneself that grows from actions that supports our physical, psychological, and spiritual growth. Self-love means having a high regard for your own well-being and happiness. It also states that self-love means taking care of your own needs and not sacrificing your well-being to please others. That last part is like the foundation for me because it changes everything. It's like a literal game changer. The majority of your problems can be solved with just applying that one part to your life. A lot of times it can come off as being selfish, but trust me, there's a huge difference. First off, you can't pour from an empty cup. How can you help others if you can't help yourself? Secondly, who's going to make sure you reach your full potential if you don't? That's no one's responsibility but yours. Like I spoke about in the last episode, some people want to see you do good but never better than them. So if you have these kind of people around you, you definitely need to be on top of your self-love game because it's no joke out here. Self-love makes you happier and more confident, and it can bring you more peace, more happiness, and even more money. Self-love is important because it allows you to know who you are and become your best self. And in my opinion, self-love is the foundation of becoming your best self. There can be barriers when it comes to self-love for me, and my biggest barrier was not knowing what self-love was in the first place. I didn't even know that I needed it, and I wished I knew more about this concept in my early 20s because I just wouldn't have allowed so much of the things that I kind of went through. Some of the things, like the relationships, the circumstances that I did let into my life. And honestly, I'd probably be further along in life too. In fact, I know I would, like for a fact. Some of the other barriers could be self-criticism, negative self-talk, and just past experiences that lowered, my self-esteem or made me feel like I wasn't worthy of self-love. Some barriers that most people kind of experience when it comes to self-love is self-criticism, negative self-talk, just past experience that lowered your self-esteem or made you feel like you simply weren't worthy of self-love. Like, who are you to love yourself, better yourself, or want more for yourself? Some of my biggest struggles once I started my self-love journey were the people who didn't like or understand my new boundaries or the newfound love that I had for myself. So to overcome this, I honestly had to distance myself from these people and go all in on me because it was just no other way for me to get to where I needed to be. My advice for you is to choose you and your growth because if you don't, you'll just be stuck. When practicing self-love and building routines, I like to focus on 3 areas, and that is physical, emotional, and mental self-care. When it comes to physical, I like to move my body daily because I am worthy of a healthy body that functions and moves properly. I also like to eat healthy foods that nourish me and help me live versus eating junk food that slows me down and do my body more harm than good. Still in the area of physical, I like to do what I can to make sure my environment and my habits reflect the love that I have for myself. And when it comes to emotional, I like to always allow myself to feel emotions because my emotions are valid. A lot of times we seek permission to feel a type of way from others, and this just goes back to even like your childhood, like you were taught how to feel or don't act like this or don't feel like this. You were taught to mask your emotions, and that's actually not a healthy thing. That's something that I learned as being an adult. But I also like to journal to help express my emotions in a healthy way and practice gratitude as well as reflection. When it comes to my mental, I like to make sure that I give myself the space to protect my mental. I feel like that's very important. Mental health should always be a priority. If you don't prioritize it, who will? I like to allow myself to slow down and read books and meditate. There's nothing like me time, and it can and will always do wonders for you. Another helpful way to cultivate self-love is positive affirmations and self-talk. And positive self-talk, This can uplift you in ways you never thought possible. So when you look in the mirror and talk nice to yourself, it doesn't always have to be some huge event. And this isn't just something for show. It becomes a lifestyle. Anytime you find yourself talking negative about yourself, switch it to something more uplifting. Talk yourself up. Because if you don't hype yourself up again, who else will? You can't depend on other people to do that for you. There's always going to be at least one thing we can say positive about ourselves, or at least one thing we like about ourselves. So say it to yourself, because honestly, you are worthy. The next thing I want to talk about is setting boundaries. This is a must because I feel like boundaries are the foundation of teaching someone how to love you. But one thing about boundaries is that they are meant to be upheld. So if you set boundaries, you need to be sticking to them. The best way for me to set boundaries is for me to first set the goal. In this case, it's self-love. So now I have to sit back and think, what can stop me from loving myself? Okay, what are things or people who do not serve me for my greatest and highest good? Maybe that's a friend who's jealous of you secretly, or a guy who is using you for a booty call and just not respecting you. Or maybe it's a family member who doesn't make you feel good, or maybe it's you with your poor eating habits. A boundary is like a wall that is put up to protect you. It's like your own personal protection that you have to set up for yourself. But the gag is, it will only work if you enforce it. Boundaries in action look like telling that guy no at 2 a.m. simply because, you're done with that. Or better yet, you can just not respond at all because this is not a thing anymore. So they'll know, okay, yeah, I can't hit her up at 2 o'clock in the morning because she's not going to respond to me, or she's not going for that shit. It can also look like you're not allowing that friend to vent to you for hours and hours and hours because it doesn't make you feel good, and you're prioritizing your mental health. Another example would be not partying with that one girl because you overdrink, and then when you overdrink, it makes you make bad decisions, and it's just not the direction that you want your life to go in anymore. It's okay for you to prioritize yourself and put boundaries in place. It's okay for you to switch up and change. Don't let nobody tell you that you can't change who you are and what you got going on for the betterment of yourself. Now I want to talk about unapologetically putting ourselves first. We talk about prioritizing ourselves, but the truth is, most of the time, it can make us feel guilty, selfish, or even unworthy. I'm here to remind you that it's okay to prioritize yourself. I don't know why there's a societal stigma around putting yourself first, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't even give someone your best if you are at your best. I really want you guys to think about that. If you are a mother, how can you be the best mother if you're always tired, drained, and stressed? Putting yourself first is essential for your personal growth and just your overall well-being. And dedicating at least 10 minutes or even an hour to yourself can do wonders. Set a time for self-love and self-care every single day and make it a non-negotiable for yourself. Because to be honest, you really owe that to yourself. You owe you. This time should be for you and you alone. Nobody else, no interactions. Not interactions, but no distractions, none of that. Personally, I like to get up early for my self-love time. It's when it's quiet and I have no interruptions. It's a great way for me to prioritize myself in the first thing in the morning and just be able to put myself first. And when I do this, it lets me put my best foot forward, not only for myself, but for my children too. You know what I mean? I can't pour from an empty cup. I got to be able to fill myself up with some good shit before I can start just giving it out. As this episode comes to an end, I want you guys to think about ways that you can start putting yourself first and prioritizing your self-care. Always remember that self-love is not selfish, it is actually a necessity. Tell me about the ways that you intend to prioritize yourself in the comments, or send me a private message. I love to hear from you guys. In the next episode, we will be discussing how to stop complaining and refocus for growth. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the S.M.A.R.T podcast and leave a 5-star review. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next Thursday on the S.M.A.R.T podcast, where we are real, raw, and get straight to the point. Together, we can become our best selves.